What's up, Gingerbeard fans? Got another video for you today, and this one is a little bit different. I have been commissioned to make a video about how to use Windows 3D. Now, you've seen my Creative Tuesday streams, you know how much I love this app. It's a great app, it's easy to work with, it's simple, and it just plain works. So today, I'm going to demonstrate how to make a medallion, medal, pendant sort of thing in 3D Builder. 3D Builder is a free app available in the Microsoft Store on all Windows 10 PCs. It is free to download, free to use, free is wonderful, and I love it for that. When you first start 3D Builder, you'll see a screen that looks kind of like this. You've got a link there that says Learn More. It'll show you some of your recent projects, you got your open, but then there's also this button that says New Scene. We're going to click on that New Scene button and get a scene started. When you first click on it, it's going to look a little barren. You'll notice in the build space that there's measurements for millimeters, 50, 100, so on and so forth. I like working in millimeters for most of the work that I do. Some of you guys might like freedom units, and that's okay. That's not a problem. To change that, click on the three horizontal lines up in the upper left corner. This brings up the menu, and then go down to Settings and click on that. In the settings, you'll see the different unit types available. Pick your preferred measurement, and away you go. So to navigate the 3D space in 3D Builder, it's all actually really simple. To move the camera, hold the right mouse button and move the mouse around. To rotate the camera, hold the left mouse button and move the mouse around. You can even look at the underside of a model by simply moving underneath the flat horizontal plane. The majority of your work in 3D Builder will be a combination of right-click, left-click, right-click, left-click, just to make sure you get the right angle and you can view it properly. It might seem a little weird at first, but once you learn how it works, it becomes really intuitive and almost second nature. You can also adjust the zoom by scrolling the mouse wheel up and down. Scroll up to zoom in, scroll down to zoom out. Now that we got the basics out of the way, let's get started on importing an image and turning it into a model. There are a couple of very important details to be aware of when working with images and turning them into models. The first being that you need to use a PNG image with a transparent background. If you use other image types, it can cause problems. So make sure that you have a transparent background on a PNG image, you'll be fine. There's plenty of clip art out there that does that. And if you don't have the right image, you can always clean it up using a program like GIMP. And that's what I did with this one. So we're going to go up here to the menu and click on Open. And it'll show you, recent items. But we're going to go down here to where it says Load Image. Going to load up my picture now. And there it is, Minnesota in all its glory. This is a preview screen. It's not actually part of the model yet. You can still navigate around, left click, right click, rotate, adjust, zoom in, and get a feel for how it looks in the 3D space. If you look up along the top here, you've got a couple of different options. You got your method, levels, smooth, all of these. For the most part, you can ignore the vast majority of this. I really just grab the image, bring it in, make sure it looks nice, but then click that import and away you go. And there we are. Now we've imported the image into 3D Builder. Ta-da! Now this looks great, but if we're going to be doing a medallion or a pendant or something along those lines, we really need to have a means of hanging it, from some ribbon. So what I like to do is I like to add a ring to do that. We're going to put our ring up here near International Falls, northern Minnesota. Speaking of, northern Minnesota is amazing and you need to get out there at one point in your life. It is beautiful, oh my god. To add the ring, we're going to go up here to this insert option. You'll notice that there are several shapes predefined, ready to go. And the torus is a donut shape, and it will work, but I don't like the way this particular shape looks. So I'm just going to click the delete button on my keyboard to get rid of it. And instead, we're going to go up here to where it says custom. Now we hit that custom and we got a cube, which is not exactly what we need. So we're going to go up here and there's this drop down. We're going to choose torus. That'll give us our donut shape. And yeah, it's a donut shape, but it's not as round as I would like it to be. So we're going to come up here to this longitude and we can adjust that. You know, take it to 30, which looks better, or 40, or even 50. There, that's the one that looks best. I like that. It's still a little blocky, so we're going to go to this latitude, and we're going to raise that up as well. We'll take it up to 30, and yeah, that should do the trick. So you'll see also up there, there's a radius and an inner radius, and that's the important stuff for what we need. The inner radius needs to be a little bit larger for what we need. The closer it gets to the outer radius, the thinner the donut becomes. And so for us, yeah, we're going to fiddle around with this here a little bit. Don't be afraid to experiment. Sometimes you have to mess around with it until you find the right size. This 14mm inner radius should do the trick. So we'll click add, and now we have ourselves a ring. Perfect. If you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see a list of objects. One of these is the Minnesota, and the other is the ring. You can select one or both items by clicking on them over on the right-hand side. You can also select models by clicking on them in the 3D space. This is important because you must have an object selected in order to make any changes to it. One thing to be careful of, however, is if you want to move one object but don't remember to deselect it, you will make changes to that object as well as the one that you're trying to work with. So if you say you want to move just the ring but you have the Minnesota selected, all of a sudden both pieces are moving in tandem when you only wanted to move one. It's an easy mistake to make, but one that you'll get used to as time progresses. Anywho, we're going to move this up over here, right like this. Perfect. That is exactly where I wanted it to fit. And this ring by itself looks halfway decent. It could work on its own, as it is. We're just going to lift this up a little bit so that it's centered in the middle of the model. And this looks halfway decent. I mean, it would work. But I like having my rings a little bit thicker. If you look down on the bottom, you'll see the Move tool, which is the default one. There's also a Rotate tool and a Scale tool. By default, the Scale tool will have this little padlock enabled, and that's a lock aspect ratio. When that's turned on, and I say I want to scale just the Z-axis, all of a sudden it's also scaling the X and Y, which is not what we need. No, it is not. So that's no good. I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo that change, and then go down to the padlock and click on it. Now it's unlocked, so when I scale on the Z-axis, I'm only scaling the Z-axis. And you can take this as thin or as thick as you want. And sometimes you even go extra thick. But take it to about there. Yeah, that should do the trick. So I'm going to go back to the Move tool again, and we're going to move on the Z-axis to center the ring in the Minnesota. Yep, there we go. Perfect. That looks much better. I like the way that this looks. This is exactly what I wanted. Bam. But for a pendant about a beer brewing competition, this looks a little bland. It really does. I think we can do better. We already used an image to make the starting point, but you can also put an image onto a model superimposed. And that is a wonderful feature that we're going to dig into. It's called the Emboss Tool. To get to it, you make sure that you have the Minnesota selected, not the ring. There we go. Got the Minnesota selected, click on Edit, and then click on Emboss. You'll see we've got text right now, but if we go up here to Pattern, click on Load, you got a couple of different shapes, arrow, circles, whatever. But if you click on Load, you can choose an image like this one of some hops, which would be perfect for a brewing competition. Click and drag on those arrows. We're going to scale it up a little bit so it's a little bit larger. Move it to the right spot. Make sure it looks nice and pretty. Gonna lower that a little bit because we don't need it to stick out that far. But yeah, that should do the trick. Take a quick glance around, make sure it all looks nice and pretty. Got the bevel turned on, and ooh, that looks nice. I like the way that turned out. That is pretty. Ooh, so nice, so good. The Emboss tool can do more than just images as well. It can do text. So we're going to go back to that emboss, and you'll notice that it kept the same image. But if we go over to Pattern and choose Text, now we can put our own message in there. You can change the font up there, and I've got one that I really like. And then you type in your message. Oh. So this is interesting. What happens when you've got a message that's too big for the model? Unfortunately, there is no word wrap for automatically moving to a new line. So we're going to have to do each word as its own line. So we'll start off with brewing, move it over here, make sure it's all centered the way we want it, adjust the scale, make sure it looks all nice and pretty like. And then we'll hit that emboss button. So I don't know if you can see this here, but there is some weird shapes in the G there. So I'm going to hit Control Z. We're going to undo, go back to that emboss, and I'm going to put some colors in here just so I can show you what I noticed. We'll reset that there, hit that emboss again. So this bevel tool gives that nice edge to the font, but for whatever reason, it seems to think that the inside of the B and the inside of the G should have some extra beveling on the flat surface, and that can cause problems when it comes time to actually print. So I'm going to remove this here, and we're just going to have to turn off the bevel for this one. So there's that bevel button. When it's grayed like that, it's turned on. We're just going to turn it off. And I'm going to just make a couple of quick tweaks here. I'm going to set the height to 2 millimeters. So it's just a nice simple thing. Real easy to work with. It's going to stand up just a little bit, but this should work better. If you see this thing on the lower right that says one or more objects are invalidly defined, click here to repair. Just click on that, let Windows 3D Builder take care of fixing that for you. It's actually really good at fixing a lot of issues with 3D models. That's one of the things that Microsoft did really right with this. Just let it repair and away you go. Bam, done. So now that we've got the first word in there, now it's time to add the second word. You'll notice that it kept brewing, so we could do brewing, but no, we're doing a brewing contest. So we'll put the word in there. And this is the one challenge with embossing, is that you've got to basically just eyeball it. So this is where, that click, drag, right click, drag, zoom out, zoom in, rotate as needed, and just basically make sure it all looks right. It's not an easy thing to do. So it's basically just eyeball it as best you can. If you mess up, hit Control Z, go back, try it again. But if you get it right, then you get it right and you move on. But I think we've got this one more or less where we need it, so I'll hit that emboss again. Perfect. I just got to repair it one more time. Done. Great. Perfect. All right. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this is starting to come together. I think we might have ourselves a medal. So let's go over here to Save As in the menu, and I want to point out something very important here. The Save As type, it defaults to this 3MF format, which is actually really handy if you want to do a project over multiple days, because what it does is it saves each of the objects in the model as separate objects. This is good for editing, but when it comes to actually printing, it can cause problems for your slicer. So what I usually recommend is choosing this STL format for models that you want to print. Save a 3MF if you want to make changes and edit, but use the STL for the final project. We'll call that Brewing Contest. And I think we are looking pretty fantastic over here. Let's do a quick jump cut and head over to Cura, and I can show you what it looks like in the slicer. Jump cut! And there you have it. Nice little medallion, says Brewing Contest. Looking pretty good, only about an hour and a half to print, so not bad at all. One important thing to note is that you do need to add supports to the model because the ring does not touch the build plate directly. That's fine, it's not a big deal. It's just something you have to be aware of. So yeah, that's about gonna do it here. I want to thank the person that commissioned this video. I'm not going to name their name because they didn't want me to, but you are an awesome person. I appreciate you for that. If you've never checked out my live streams, I broadcast on Monday and Friday nights on Vim and on Twitch. Same username, DDR Freak, is everywhere. I'd love to see you drop by, say hi. I do a lot of retro video games and the occasional creative, kind of like this sort of deal. I'd love to see you stop in, say hi, let's chat, and all that fun jazz. Make sure you're following me wherever you're watching me. I'm on YouTube as well as Library. If you haven't seen Library yet, you gotta come check it out. Good stuff out there. It's a great site. I love it. But yeah, as always, I am DDR Freak, the Gingerbeard Man, and this has been a tutorial video from me. Look forward to seeing you again in the future. Later!